The old saying, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an immunologist, everything looks like a lockdown. So, and I fault President Trump. I mean, when you put the group together, the coronavirus group, and I guess Mike Pence was the head of it. Yeah, you want cognitive diversity. So yeah, give Fauci a seat at the table and Deborah Birx, and that's fine. But bring in some psychologists, some economists, some lawyers, some engineers. Bring in people who from different disciplines, who have what an interdisciplinary approach. Listen to all the voices, and then decide. But what they did, they kind of gave Fauci the keys to the economy. Now Fauci's pretends to disclaim this. He says, "Well, I'm just an immunologist. I'm not an economist." It's like, yeah, but you're the one who locked down the economy.
Right.
And he should not have been listened to. And he's been wrong about everything, by the way. He's been on both sides of the mask issue, both sides of the lockdown issue. So he's a swamp creature, and he's a politico. But okay, I guess he has an immunology degree from 50 years ago, but he doesn't really understand what we're talking about, what more serious scientists talk about. So he deserved a seat at the table, but to give him the keys to the economy was, in my view, a world historic blunder.
Yeah, and going back to that, I thought, just as a random person who, I'm in the camp of the cure is going to be a heck of a lot worse than the disease in the long run. I remember some of the early pressers that Trump was doing with all those people on the stage, and Fauci would give his, this is the science, blah blah blah, and then Trump would be like, hey, yes, it's bad. We know that. We got to figure out a way to get things going again. So he was. It seemed in my mind, at least, he was trying. Obviously, he didn't. It didn't work. So we shut. And by the way, your first two chapters are amazing. It's a great sort of refresher as to just a timeline of the pandemic itself, and then the shutdown and all the sort of ill-fated policies that were put in place. So chapters 1 and 2 are awesome for that. Let's go now to, okay, here we are. The economy's basically been hammered. Where do we go now? And what's your position on the relief packages that we all hear about?
Right. So chapter 3 really, as you described, Brian, chapter 1 is the spread of the virus, and it did come from a laboratory in Wuhan. I know the wet market theory has been pretty much discredited, but I said that last spring, but more recent evidence backs that up. Chapter 2 talks about the lockdown. Chapter 3, we get into the new Great Depression. But the point is, chapter 2 is a bridge. So here's your disease and here's your depression. How do you get from here to here? Well, that bridge was the lockdown. And as I said, actually, I think in the first sentence, a virus causes a pandemic, but a virus does not cause a depression. We have to do that ourselves. It's our response to the virus, our response to the pandemic, our policy choices that cause the economic depression. So we start there on chapter 3. So we kind of begin with a lot of, some history and what happened in the stock market, and the real catalyst for the stock market decline last February was not what was going on in China, because everyone knew that. And Chinese were lying about the numbers, but there was a sense on Wall Street that, all right, it's a problem in China, but it's contained and they're going to get it under control. It's when it blew up in Italy that the market, that was February 23rd, the market said, oh, wait a second, it's out of China, it's spreading fast, it's growing exponentially. Now we have a global problem.
Right.
Although Trump, to his credit, saw that in late January, but by late February, the market kind of woke up. Another refutation of the efficient market hypothesis. The market was about a month late, but that's what happened. But then, so the job losses and the change in labor force participation, skyrocketing savings rates, we kind of go through all that. But then in chapter 4, I get to, I think, what you're pointing towards, Brian, which is, what about the stimulus? What about the Fed cutting interest rates to zero, printing over $3 trillion of new money, and then the Congress authorizing $3 trillion of spending at the time, and more since. And